Okay, clase, the last thing to talk about in chapter 1A is affirmative and negative words. So you need to have some notes out. You need to write some things down. I'm going to show you this silly video, but I'm going to pause it and talk about some things as we go. Affirmative and negative words is a little tricky in Spanish because there's some concepts that are different from how we do things in English. So you guys know I'm always saying that when we can't translate word for word or when it doesn't work out exactly the same, then that's sometimes when we struggle. So the best way to work around that is to listen, to do lots of examples, and to begin to understand what sounds good. So I'm going to start this video. I want you to take some notes. I'll pause it when I have to add to or when there's some things that you need to write down.
Every day we use affirmative and negative words.
Examples of affirmative words are some, somewhere, something, always, and all. The Spanish equivalents are algún,
Okay, these are your affirmative words. These are positive.
siempre,
So you need to pause the video and make sure to define all of those.
Algo para escribir.
Someone is going to write you.
ella siempre presta atención.
She always pays attention.
And of course, with positive comes
Now your negative words,
examples of negative words
write these down.
are none, nobody, nothing, never, and neither. In Spanish, they are ningún, nadie, nada, nunca.
When using alguno and ninguno,
Okay,
remember to
I want to go back a second to
No,
these.
nobody,
Okay, now with none and with nothing, you need to add a definition. Okay, with ningún, it means none, but it also means any in a positive sense. Because in English, we would say, I don't have any questions, for example. But because that's a negative statement, I don't have, no tengo, it would be ningunas preguntas. No tengo ningunas preguntas. So it's like saying I don't have none questions, which doesn't make any sense in English. So you need to understand that this word none can also mean any. Okay, and this word nada can also mean anything. Because if you say, I have nothing, you would say, tengo nada. But if you want to say, I don't have anything, you would still say, no tengo nada. Because if a sentence is negative and starts out negative in Spanish, you must continue with a negative word. So in other words, double negatives are very much a thing in Spanish. Okay, so nothing also is anything or nada. And ningún is none, but it can also translate to any if you start your sentence with a negative word no before the verb. We'll look at some examples.
nothing, never, and neither, and tampoco.
Now, if you're going to use negative and affirmative words, you've got to learn some rules.
when using alguno and ninguno, remember to match the gender, masculine or feminine, and number, singular or plural, of the noun they refer to. Algunos muchachos juegan al básquetbol.
How about a couple more examples? Compré algunos libros.
This is the past tense, which means I bought.
No tengo ninguna pregunta.
Okay, so notice this is what I was saying. I don't have, no tengo ninguna pregunta. But if you look at your definition for ninguna, it says it means none. But in this sentence, really it translates to any, because you're saying I don't have any question, or I have none question. That doesn't make any sense. So ninguna does mean none, but it also can translate to mean any when we have a negative word before the verb.
And don't forget that when alguno and ninguno come before a masculine singular noun, they change to algún and ningún.
Okay, so like all adjectives that come before objects, you know we have to talk about masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. These words, when they come before a masculine singular noun, the O drops. So it becomes algún estudiante is like some student is, I don't know, some student is super tall. I don't know. Algún estudiante es super alto. Or ningún estudiante es super alto. So none student, no student. There is no student. But because it becomes because it comes before a masculine singular noun, we drop the O. We'll see some more examples.
Okay, remember how to make a sentence negative in Spanish? That's right. You usually put no in front of the verb, as in, no voy al laboratorio por la mañana. However, if the sentence begins with a negative word, like nunca or nadie, you do not need to put no in front of it. Nunca voy al laboratorio por la mañana. Nadie le presta atención al perro.
Okay, let's review. The affirmative words for some, alguno, as well as none, ninguno, match the number and gender of the noun they refer to. Yep.
Llaman a algunas amigas means they call some friends, some girlfriends. So algunas agrees with amigas. Escuchamos algunos programas. I know programas looks like it's feminine, but it's actually a masculine word. It's one of those ma, pa words that are like cognates, and they are actually masculine. So that's why algunos programas, it does actually agree. And then no encuentro ninguna película. I'm not finding any movie. Or I find none, no movie. But because of the no here, we use the negative word here. Actually translates to any.
Llaman a algunas amigas. Escuchamos.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay, I've moved to your textbook now, page 31. I want you to make sure that you have all of these notes here, which are actually kind of better than that Gramatica video. But it does tell us here that alguien means someone, but also anyone. And it tells us here that ningún means no, none, or not any. So we can see how that works better in the sentences. So make sure you have all of these words defined in your notes. And then I want you to look here in your notes. I want you to write numbers 1 through 11. And I want to go through this activity with you as you're reading it and we're thinking about it and looking at the answers together. Okay, so la profesora de álgebra es la más estricta de la escuela. Blank estudiante quiere estudiar con ella. So we want to say no student. There's none students or no student that wants to study with her. So what we need to consider is either using ninguno or ningún. And our adjective is considered by the noun estudiante, which is singular and masculine. So think about that when you choose which one to use. Number 2, hay muchas reglas en la clase. También or tampoco. También means also that we're using an affirmative sentence here. Tampoco would have to have already the word no in it somewhere. 3. En la clase de historia tenemos blank reglas. Ninguna is a negative word, which means we would already be talking negative. Algunas is an affirmative word and it's feminine plural, which reglas is also feminine plural. Y son muy estrictas. En nuestra escuela, blank podemos comer blank en clase? So we've got a negative or an affirmative with a negative or an affirmative. You got to understand what's being said here. In our school, we never can eat nothing in class. We always can eat nothing. We always can eat something. Or we never can eat something. So think about what might be said here in context, and then consider the flow of affirmative and negative words. Number 6, también or tampoco podemos beber. So also we can drink, or neither can we drink. En la clase de ciencias puedo trabajar con nadie or alguien para hacer la tarea. I'll tell you right now that if your answer was a negative word, no one, we would have to have a no up here already. I can't work with no one because Spanish is all about the double negatives. So since there's no negative up here, we have to assume that our answer is going to be affirmative, alguien. Número 8, pero para la clase de inglés, oh, there it is. No podemos trabajar con. Okay, so think about that one. The difference between 7 and 8. See if you can recognize the differences in those sentences. En la clase de español, blank trabajamos en parejas o en grupos para hacer proyectos. In Spanish class, we always or we never work in partners. No conozco, number 10, no conozco blank escuela con tantas reglas. Ninguna escuela o alguna escuela. Ask yourself, is this a negative sentence or is this seemingly an affirmative sentence? And the last one, esta escuela tiene algunos or algunas de los profesores más estrictos. Only thing to consider in number 11 is the agreement of feminine, masculine, singular, plural. So some of those I kind of did for you, and the others I was asking you to figure out on your own. Show that to me on Friday for homework credit, and we will continue to work with these words in class on Friday. They are definitely going to be on your test on Wednesday, so let's make sure that you're understanding it. Hasta luego.